The thing about hiring SJWs is that no matter what you do, it's always wrong. If they demand that you hire more people from a certain identity group and you don't, they'll call you a bigot. If they name a creator from that group and you don't hire that person, they'll call you a bigot. And if they demand to be hired based on their identity and you hire them because of that, they'll call you a bigot. They call themselves social justice warriors, but they're really just a bunch of ungrateful bitches. Like Sina Grace. So, Sina Grace, the ridiculously campy gay dude hired by Marvel to write Not Actually Gay Iceman because he was gay, took to Twitter to bitch and moan about how Marvel hired him because he was gay. Grace rants that Marvel wouldn't let him write any other books, and he didn't have the industry or political clout to force them to put him on another book. So instead he decides to go to the public shaming route by claiming Marvel was unfair to him because they only let him write the character they hired him to write. Marvel hired Grace because he's gay, and they put him on the Iceman book because Iceman was telepathically made gay by young Jean Grey. They gave the gay man the not actually gay character because that's what woke people do. Only people who belong to a group can write about that group, so that's why Grace was hired. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can find the full rant link below, but I do want to touch on some points. Grace talks about the negative response he got for how he wrote Iceman, and he says, quote, "Between Iceman's cancellation and subsequent revival, Marvel reached out and said they'd noticed threatening behavior on my Twitter account, only after asking me to send proof of all the nasty shit popping up online." So what he means here is that people made fun of him. SJWs call this harassment, but it's really just talking shit. A normal person would either ignore it, mute the people, or make their account private. Sina Grace instead plays the victim, and then tries to use that fake victimhood to bully Marvel into giving him more work. Quote, "An editor called. These conversations always happen over the phone, offering to provide tips and tricks to deal with the cyberbullying. I cut him off. All he was going to do was tell me how to fend for myself. I needed Marvel to stand by me with more work opportunities to show the trolls I was more than a diversity hire. We'll keep you in mind." I got tired of that sentence. So instead of telling Grace how to stand up to the so-called cyberbullies, Grace thinks Marvel should have given him more work to prove he wasn't hired or exactly the reason he was hired. Nigga, please, you couldn't sell Iceman books. Marvel printed thousands of these things and nobody bought them. The book performed so badly it was cancelled, and then it was relaunched months later after some media fallout, but the initial orders were so low that it went from being a new ongoing series to a mini-series. In what world should you be rewarded with more work when you can't get people to buy the book you're already writing? The idea that you should be given more work to thumb your nose at your critics is ridiculous. Here's the thing, you effectively had control over Iceman. They seemed to let you do whatever you wanted. So if you wanted to prove your critics wrong, you could have done it in that book. But you didn't, because that was never what this was about. It was about you getting prestige and power because you're gay. That's what you thought was going to happen. What Marvel thought was, we'll hire a gay guy to write a gay character. They had no intention of putting you on any other book, and you knew that when you took the job. So you're just bitching because you wanted to change the deal and Marvel said no. He goes on. Quote, "Even after a year of the new editor-in-chief saying I was talented and needed to be on a book that wasn't a gay character, the only assignment I got outside of Iceman was 6 pages long, about a version of Wolverine where he had diamond claws. Fabulous? Yes. Heterosexual? Yes. Still kind of the gay character though. Then don't take the job. Dude, this isn't hard. You don't want to write gay characters? Refuse the offer. I mean, that's what you should have done with Iceman. When they relaunched the title and offered it to you again, you should have turned it down and asked for something else. You didn't, because this was never about proving your skill or talent. It was about you using your sexuality to get prestige and power. It's just that Marvel had no other use for you. They hired you because of your sexuality. You knew this when you took the job, so why are you complaining? I mean, your editor was honest with you about the situation. Quote, "From the get-go, my editor asserted that Iceman would be DOA if it were too gay, while also telling me to prepare for a cancellation anyway, given that most solo X-Men titles don't last beyond a year." Which is true. Outside of Wolverine, Cable, and Deadpool, few X-Men tie-in comics last long, even when it's a popular character like Storm, Rogue, Gambit, Bishop, or Mystique. It's a struggle to get people to buy the books, in large part because most of the X-Men work best in an ensemble story. They're better when they're bouncing off the other X-Men personalities, not on their own. So your editor was honest, but your ego got in the way. Quote, never mind that my work on Iceman had gotten positive press in the New York Times in print, or that in spite of, since deleted, critical sandbagging, the series nets glowing reviews on Amazon. So a shill article from the media and curated reviews on Amazon are proof that the book was good and well received. You know what's a better indicator? Word of mouth. If people really liked it, they'd talk about it. And most of the commentary about Iceman was less than positive. Who was this book written for? Because it definitely wasn't for the run-of-the-mill gay people. You wrote Iceman to be this kitschy douchebag who talks and acts remarkably like you, which is completely different from his prior 60-year history personality. And no one liked it, including the woke SJWs who applauded the book as needed and inspirational. They were inspired, just not enough to actually support the book. None of them bought it. Even the letters you included at the end of the book showed that plenty of the people writing to you hadn't read the damn thing, or at the very least, nothing in the stories mattered to them. They only cared about Iceman's telepathically induced sexuality. So with that in mind, is it any wonder that, as Grace complains, quote, Marvel still treated me as someone to be contained, and the book is something to be nervous about. Yeah, the book tanked. Nerd Wonder's cat didn't like the damn thing. The cat can't even read, and even the cat knows it's bad. So then Grace bitches about the relaunch, and how he decided to shaft Marvel by doing press himself. That's a no-no. So Marvel clamped down on the interviews. He says, quote, this would be fine if it was a standard, but I assure you, none of my straight male colleagues seek permission to go on podcasts promoting their books. I'm sure none of your straight male colleagues go and do an interview with the New York Times without getting it approved from Marvel first, dumbass. They don't have a problem with you promoting the book. They have a problem with how you promote the book. And you trying to undercut their control over their property, yeah, they're gonna check you. So why are you so fucking sensitive about it? Thought your name was Sina Grace, not Carlos Maza. So then Sina Grace says that Marvel should have treated him like the purse puppy diversity hire he denies that he is. Quote, what Marvel should have done is assign me a special projects editor. They should have worked with a specialty PR firm rather than repeat a tiresome cycle of treating the book like a square peg and getting confused when it's a hit. You mean they should have treated you like Magdalene Visaggio? Well, maybe you should have changed your pronoun. They're supposed to spend their money to hire you a PR rep for a book no one buys. I think you need to dial back on the male tears or make sure the source you're drinking from isn't pissed drunk when you go to the tap. Look at the entitlement. He's complaining about being treated as a diversity hire by demanding he be treated like a diversity hire. No one else is getting special treatment, but he thinks he should because he's deluded himself into believing his book was a hit. He's absolutely delusional. There's no other word to describe someone thinking his book is a hit when it gets canceled for low sales. I mean, there's no other reason Marvel would cancel the book. The controversy works in their favor since most of the media is far left. Any criticism will just be swept away as homophobia. So if the book actually sells well, it makes no business, cultural, or fan-based sense to cancel the book. The only reason it got canned is because no one bought it. But Grace claims, quote, the first 2 volumes sold like gangbusters thanks to word of mouth, librarian love, and support from retailers big and small. Yeah, I'm sure the 1,315 copies of Volume 1 and 959 copies of Volume 2 are doing so very well in libraries across the nation. Those were the numbers for the debuts of each volume. That's barely 2,200 trades. This is what you're bragging about. If this book was so popular, shouldn't the orders be higher than this? Shouldn't we see these books flying off shelves, not sitting there waiting for an 80% markdown? The book wasn't a hit because there wasn't a massive audience. There were a handful of SJWs willing to buy the book, but not enough to justify printing it. And the reason why is because of how Sina Grace wrote the book. It was all about politics and not about story, and he admits this, quote, when the series returned, no one at Marvel asked me, what do you think landed with readers? Nor did they ask the question that Axel did, what matters to your community? So when I wrote what I thought the fans would be into, a story about a man learning to be a better ally in the war against hate, editorial totally missed its value. They didn't miss the value. They understood it had no value and wouldn't move books. No one is reading a comic to learn how to be a better ally or whatever SJW bullshit you put in your books. It's not that you can't tell that story in the world of the X-Men, you can. The problem is that you're focused on it being about real-world SJW politics instead of using mutation as a metaphor and telling a broader story. You've got your agenda and you don't give a damn about the readers. That's why when you created Shade, now Dark Veil, you boldly told your editor the character that no one knows or cares about would be, quote, a big deal for X-Men fans, and then got pissy when you asked the editor how to promote the character and he said, leave it up to the reader's interpretation. Yes, how dare readers get to decide which characters they like. Better to tell them what characters to like and force a character down the reader's gullets, because that always works out well. Just ask Vince McMahon. But then the plot thickens. See, Marvel apparently didn't trust Grace after his previous attempts to get around Marvel's control over their property by giving unapproved interviews. So, quote, everyone at Marvel shrugged off 2 years of goodwill and acted like I coordinated behind their backs on an announcement that made headlines. Beyond mentioning on Instagram the queens who inspired the character, I didn't coordinate shit. Of course, their head publicist can't admit that my quotes were pre-approved from an unreleased interview. Bitch, stop whining. Jesus. You did this to yourself. You went behind their backs and gave an interview. It would appear that you may have leaked info as well, since by your own admission they think that you did this, and it's hard to believe that the people at Marvel would randomly think this about you. So, you fucked up your own deal by going outside of the purview of the original agreement. Right? Gay shit. That's why you were hired, and you knew this, but you thought that you were supposed to get something extra for it. No. Even Mags understands that no one in their right mind, hell, even in their wrong mind, is going to give her anything major to write. That's not the deal. You're a diversity hire. You knew this when you took the job. Part of the reason you took the job was because of how it would be good for you as a gay creator. That's the deal. You can't change the deal now just because your critics called you out, or because Marvel won't give you anything other than gay characters to write. But then, you don't want to write anything but gay characters. You created Dark Veil, a drag queen thief who lets his friend die and then decides to become a drag superheroine. This is the character you created. There was your chance to show that you could do more than one thing. You could have created any character with any background, but you chose to create another gay character, and then you wrote a very stereotypical bio for that character before leaving. And then you have the temerity, the unmitigated gall to act like Marvel shafted you after your piss-poor performance. Quote, I recognize that some of my complaints can be filed under "This is freelance life." I am aware that it was not a person of color who joked to me that it's not a matter of if Marvel fucks you over, it's a matter of when. That came from a cis white male. So now you're implying that Marvel is racist and homophobic after they specifically sought you, a Hispanic, Middle Eastern, khaki gay man, to write for them. They hired you because of your race and sexuality, and now you're claiming they're bigots. Talk about backstabbers. I thought you were the one who's supposed to get phallic things shoved into him. Now, he does have a point when he talks about how Marvel has same-day turnarounds and sends emails on holidays. That's bullshit. But it's also bullshit for Sina Grace to say something like this, quote, it is my belief that if they were willing to tell stories about heroes doing the right thing in the face of adversity, wouldn't the hope be to embody those ideals as individuals? Instead of feeling like I worked with some of the most inspiring and brave people in comics, I was surrounded by cowards. Fuck you. I don't even work for Marvel. Hell, I don't even like Marvel at this point. If Marvel Comics ended tomorrow, I'd be fine. Wouldn't care. Still, fuck you. They hired you. Twice. After you tanked the book, they gave it back to you. What kind of coward thumbs his nose at the critics and rehires the same fuck up again? It's stupid, but it's not cowardice. But you writing a rant on Tumblr implying that your former employer is racist and homophobic because they wouldn't let you have your way with their company, and trashing the people who gave you a job on a book you didn't really want, don't appear to actually care about, clearly aren't even a little grateful for, and definitely didn't deserve, that shit is cowardly. If you had balls, or at least took them out of the other dude's mouth, you'd say that shit directly to Marvel, to your former employers. Instead, you took the pussy route and jumped on social media to bitch and moan like the entitled diversity hire purse puppy that you are. Ironically though, this will probably get you more work in Marvel. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.